Court's back in session. Jury's in the courtroom.
Everybody be seated, please. Did McBanawalt wish to cross as to Mr. Brown?
No, Your
All right. Redirect.
No, sir.
All right. All right, you can step down, Mr. Brown. We want to keep Mr. Brown or not?
No, sir. He's free to go about his business.
Y'all need him for any reason.
No, Judge.
No, Your Honor.
All right, you're excused. Your next witness, Ms. Copeland.
State calls Brock Dietz.
So, I don't know who the juror was, but y'all did exactly right. If you need a break, just let us know. We'll take a break when you need to take one. So, So we got the parking arrangements and so forth getting in. All right, court administration treating you okay? All right, let me know if there's a problem with that. But, all right, we've made some county employees are having to park elsewhere, so you don't have a place to park.
The senior ones, right?
Yeah, y'all got priority. You would face the clerk and be sworn, please, sir.
Swear affirm testimony about giving this case to be true, whole truth, and nothing but truth.
I do.
Have a seat, please. Slide up the microphone.
Please say your name and spell your name.
First name Brock, last name Dietz, D-I-E-T-Z,
How do you spell Brock?
B-R-O-C-K.
How are you employed?
Excuse me. I'm a detective with the State of Florida's Bureau of Fire, Arson, and Explosives Investigation.
How long have you been so employed?
Since 1994.
And as part of your duties there, do you look at video surveillance and attempt to clarify video surveillance?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct. Since 2002, for the past 17 years, one of my job responsibilities is to perform forensic video analysis.
And what training and experience do you have in that area?
Can I refer to my notes?
Sure.
Over the past 17 years, I've had the ability to be able to go not only through private vendors that sells the equipment and the software, other public agencies, FBI is one of them, and also other forensic scientific organizations that I've received training up under.
All right. And how many occasions have you had during the course of your employment there to attempt to enhance or clarify videos?
I've worked over 750 video cases since 2002.
And what types of things can you do with these videos?
The technique that I use is basically clarifying video. The way I like to describe it is simply the video's been recorded and I clarify it so that the judge and jury can make an educated decision on what they're seeing. A good way to describe it is if you turn off all the lights in this room and there's something being recorded, I simply just raise the luminance up so that you can see what's already there.
All right, so you can make the images brighter?
Brighter, identify objects or subject matter that needs to be identified by highlighting them. Enlarge them is another one. Perhaps slow down the video so that the judge and jury can see the events that are occurring.
Are you able to clip out portions of the video to, like if you had, 15 hours of video but only 2 or 3 minutes that are important, would you be able to isolate those images?
That is correct.
All right. And what about drawing circles around things that, the prosecution wants to highlight? Is that something you'd be able to do?
Yes, ma'am. That's easily done in the software that's available to us.
All right. Were you asked to clarify some videos in reference to the case that we're here about today?
That is correct.
I want to specifically draw your attention to State's Exhibit 124, some clips from Premier Gym surveillance from July 18, 2014, and State's Exhibit 125, some clips from some city buses that were taken from that same day. Are you familiar with those state's exhibits?
I am.
And did you attempt to clarify or do any analysis on those state's exhibits?
Those specific clips, in my terminology, I clarified them.
All right, tell us exactly what you did. Let's start with the gym surveillance clip.
Okay, with the Premier Fitness and Health, and I'll describe the software and that we use at the laboratory that I performed this analysis on. For this specific case, I was using Avid. Avid is a leading industry nonlinear editing software that gives us the capabilities to be able to take video footage or streams of it and make the edits that we need to do, such as the ASA had described. We can take out portions that extend too long.
What's an ASA?
Assistant State Attorney.
Thank
I'm sorry.
you. It's okay. Carry on.
And and also Avid that we have has a forensic software suite or a plug-in called Detective that is made by Ocean Systems. Those plug-ins allow us to be able to highlight the subject matter, perform frame averaging, expand on a field of view that we need to concentrate on, such as magnifying it. And that is the software, again, that we use. Specifically for this case and the footage from Premiere, I redigitized the original footage. When I say redigitize is, I took DVR decoder, which is part of the plug-in of the forensic software that we have. I took that, it's a pixel for pixel, records what you're seeing on the screen. I can take DVR decoder. This particular video was played in what they call a TVR player. It's like a VLC player or a Windows media player, but there was one that was specific for that type of software, or the images that I received. It was called TVR player. The video was playing in it, and I took the plug-in DVR decoder and outlined the video and recorded it pixel for pixel. When I say pixel for pixel, I'm not losing any information. That allows me to be able to input that video file into Avid. What's occurring
Avid?
these days? Ma'am?
What's Avid?
Avid is the nonlinear editing software that we use to perform these clarifications on.
Okay, so you're copying it out of its player that comes with it that's prescribed with the surveillance system from the gym?
Correct.
And then plugging it into some other format?
Yes, ma'am. And we do that because these file formats will not import into Avid software. That is simply because every Monday a brand new company comes up and that has a codec that is specific or that is unique. All these software programs, they're not able to read them. That's why they incorporate a lot of times their own little player, such as this one was TVR player again. So I'm not able to just import that file into my software. I have to, what I call, redigitize it to be able to bring it back in. And at that point, I can perform an analysis on it. Again, with this specific case, the state attorney's office identified a person of interest, the victim, that victim's vehicle, and the defendant's vehicle. Times were provided to myself by the state attorney's office in which I isolated those times. And at that point, when those vehicles came of interest, I did a clarification on basically highlighting them, showing them for a period of time, a few seconds, and then letting the video play from that point.
All right, so when for example, if we're talking about the green Prius, when that comes into view, you kind of pause the video for a second, draw a circle around it, and then let it play through, and then that clip ends, and we go to the next clip where either the victim or the Prius are in view, and the same thing happens. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, and are the times that are shown on each of those clips that you've put into this presentation accurate and consistent with the times that were on the original?
Yes, that is correct.
All right, and you didn't alter or change anything in like adding or taking out vehicles or people or anything like that?
No, ma'am, I did not. I simply highlighted the interest, the vehicles, and the person.
All right, and what about in reference to the city bus video, State's Exhibit 125?
Okay, that software or that specific video file, I was able to play it in Windows Media Player, in which most computers have. And again, I redigitized it, brought that back into Avid, and applied similar effects to it. The highlight showing the vehicles again, and then playing from that
And when
point.
you say highlight, what is that
That is
specifically?
when I drew a circle around the vehicle of interest or the person of interest.
All right, so we drew the circle around it and we kind of paused it, and then we took the clips out where the different things are in view. But other than that, did you do any kind of enhancing as far as, I don't know, turning on the lights like how you described earlier?
No, I didn't. I changed no to luminance. Luminance is the value of darkness and highlights. The only thing that was applied to those was a highlight effect to be able to circle them.
All right, so basically we drew circles on these things.
Yes,
All right, and that's the bus video and the gym surveillance.
yes, ma'am.
All right, no further questions.
Cross.
Detective Dietz, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
When the prosecution asked you to make these, to I don't know what the right word is here, to enhance or alter the initial videos, okay? Would it be fair to say that at that point, the prosecution had a target as to who they believe was involved in this case?
When I was clarifying those video clips, yes, the state attorney's office identified the vehicle and the person of interest.
Okay. And would I be correct in assuming that, well, do you remember the day you were asked to do this? The specific date?
No, sir, it was over a span of about a month,
Well, do you remember when that month started?
August
Of what year, sir?
this year.
August of 2019?
Yes, sir.
So the the prosecution in this case approached you 5 years? Would that be about correct? The incident took place in July of 2014. You're aware of that, correct?
Yes, sir. The state attorney's office approached me at that point. Prior to that, I did receive portions of the video from Tallahassee Police Department.
And do you know when you received those portions? What the date was?
August the 5th, 2014.
And you prepared the video that the government's shown you, what's been previously marked as government's exhibit 124 and 125 in August of this year?
Yes, sir.
And how long does it take you to prepare these modifications?
Depending on the length of time that's being asked, anywhere from I could accomplish it in a day to a week.
So if the government would have come up to you a few months ago and said, listen, we need the modifications to be made from this original surveillance footage, it would take you a day to a week to provide what's been entered in the evidence as government's exhibit 124 and 125?
That's correct.
Do you have the original videos? The original footage?
No, sir.
And I'm going to ask kind of...
May I expand on that?
yeah, I was going to follow up.
Okay. When I receive the evidence in, it's either through a CD, DVD, or a thumb drive. And at that time, I'll take the original, what's being submitted to myself, go ahead and put it on the hard drive, and then return that back to the submitter.
Okay, so you take what's given to you, download it on your hard drive, and then give the original back to, I assume, law enforcement or the state attorney's office, correct? But would it be true to say that you would have a copy of the original footage on the hard drive of your work computer?
Correct.
Do you do or make any kind of presentations where you do side-by-side analysis, where you do the original footage versus the altered footage, so a jury could see what you received versus what you're presenting to them?
I have, yes, sir.
Did you do that in this case?
No, sir, I did not.
Give me 1 second, Judge. Detective Dietz, you indicated that you conducted the enhancement or the alteration, or let me rephrase that. For what's been previously entered into evidence as Government's Exhibit 124 and 125, when did you provide the prosecution with that? You said August of 2019?
The last copy was presented last week.
Last week. And when you say last copy, is that a different edit versus the one previous to that?
Correct.
So you're constantly, or you've made multiple edits to the original?
I've added things to I had the original video, and at the request of the state attorney's office, not new footage, but new awareness of the location of the vehicles or the person of interest have come about, and they've asked me to add that to my other clarifications.
And what was the most recent awareness, or what did they ask you to do most recently?
There was additional, may I refer to my notes?
Of course you can, sir.
Okay, I'm ready, sir.
Okay, go ahead, Detective.
They wanted to add some more information from camera 2 at the 9:24:19 mark, where the Prius comes in the screen. At that time, they also asked me to eliminate some of the victim sitting in the car, because I believe the victim stayed in his car at that point for 5 minutes. So I basically deleted some of that time frame from when he entered the car and then exited the parking lot in his vehicle.
And this is the Prestige footage, the Prestige,
Premiere.
I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Did I say Prestige? I apologize.
No.
It's long in the day and I didn't get coffee for lunch. So from the Premier Fitness, this
That is
is what you're
correct.
referencing to? And from August 5th in 2014 to August 1st, the latest alteration that you made to the surveillance, how many times do you think that you have gone through the original footage and made alterations to it? Take your time, look at your report. Let me know when you're ready.
5 times.
Five times, sir?
Correct.
And would it be correct in me assuming that or whatever work that you have done has been at the direction of the state attorney?
That is correct.
And would it be fair to say that the work strike that question, Judge. I'm not going to ask the question I was going to ask. Give me 1 second, Your Honor, if I may. Well, if anyone was sleepy, I woke him up. Thank you, Detective. No further questions for Mr. Garcia.
McMahon,
No questions, Your Honor.
be direct.
So just to clarify, Ms. Dietz, what is being referred to as alterations were drawing circles around items of interest in these videos
That is correct.
and pausing the videos at certain points so that you can see what it is you're drawing the circle around.
Yes, ma'am.
And also editing the videos so that portions of the video where the subject vehicle is not present are not going to be shown to the jury.
That is correct.
All right.
At no point was the original ever worked on. I always work on a working copy. So the clarifications that I made are just a working copy that's been provided to the state.
Okay. And is this something that you do in the ordinary course of your business to make the presentation of surveillance images more efficient for a jury to view?
That's what I believe as, a forensic video analysis is to make it, clarify it to the point so that the judge and jury can make a good decision when they deliberate.
All right. Nothing further.
Any juror have a question of this witness? You can step down. Remain with us, please, sir. Call your next witness.
State calls Michael Dilmore.
Judge, can we approach while she's getting that witness?
Okay.
Judge Rodrigu, you swear affirm testimony about giving this case to be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
May I inquire?
You mind?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can you introduce yourself to the members of the jury and spell your first and your last name?
Certainly. My name is Investigator Mike Dilmore, the Tallahassee Police Department. It's Mike, M-I-K-E, Dilmore, D-I-L-M-O-R-E.
And how are you employed at the Tallahassee Police Department?
I'm an investigator and I do digital forensics.
Can you give us a little bit of information about your educational background?
Sure, I have a bachelor's degree in criminology and a bachelor's degree in education as well.
And you said you do digital forensics. What does that mean?
Digital forensics is basically the process of acquiring and then examining electronic data with the ultimate goal of preserving any evidence in its original form, so without changing any evidence.
And how long have you been doing digital forensics?
About 8.5 years.
Did you have to receive any kind of specialized training to teach you how to extract data from electronic
Yes,
devices?
ma'am. I've had probably about 1,400 hours of training in computer-related courses, and a little over 1,000 of that has been specifically for digital forensics.
How many of the 1,400? I didn't hear you.
A little over 1,000, I believe.
And are you a member of any professional organizations that?
The International
digital.
Association of Computer Investigative Specialists, it's called IASIS. Yes, ma'am.
And if you could just wait until I'm done asking my question so the court reporter can make sure she gets our questions and answers.
I apologize.
It's okay. In addition to the training that you've received, as well as the memberships you have, do you have any real-life, on-the-job experience in digital forensics?
Yes, ma'am. That's what I do every day. 8.5 years. I don't do anything else but digital forensics at the police department.
And have you ever testified in court with respect to that subject matter?
Yes, ma'am.
About how many times?
Approximately 20.
Are you familiar with what the cloud is?
Yes, ma'am.
What is the cloud?
The cloud, you can kind of consider it, you know, how you have like a USB drive or a hard drive for your computer. It's like that, but on the internet. It's hosted on a network of servers by some company. Things like Google Drive, iCloud, Dropbox, those are cloud service providers where you can store your data on the internet so you can access it from somewhere else.
So it's basically just like a backup hard drive you'd have at home, but it's maintained
Somewhere else.
somewhere else in the country.
Yes, ma'am.
And how do you create the ability to have your own cloud?
Certainly. You create an account with whoever you want to do it, whether it be Google or Apple or Dropbox. And then once you create that account, you can log in from pretty much anywhere and access your data.
Where is that? And you said this is the data you're accessing that's located somewhere else
Correct.
in the world. And different companies provide different clouds. You mentioned like Dropbox. Apple has the iCloud. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And can the cloud like sync amongst all your different devices?
Yes, ma'am.
And how so?
So take iCloud, for example. If you have an Apple ID, you log in, say with your iPhone, and then it syncs to iCloud, and then let's say you have an iPad as well. If you log in with the same Apple ID and set it up for syncing, then you can have the same data from your iPhone on your tablet as well.
Can you also then go in and decide what types of data you want synced? For example, if I have an Apple iPhone and then I also have a tablet at home, I can choose whether I want to sync photos, for example, or contents, or really
Yes.
anything.
Yes, ma'am.
And the user can control what is synced and backed up on the cloud.
That's correct.
Let's say that law enforcement wants to get a hold of someone's iCloud. How would they go about doing that? Getting the contents of their cloud.
Right.
Excuse me.
You send legal process to Apple.
What is legal process?
Search warrant.
Okay. Is that a search warrant that like a court would sign off on a probable cause affidavit?
That's correct.
In this particular case, did TPD issue a legal demand or a search warrant to Apple for the contents of a Charlie Adelson's iCloud?
Yes, ma'am.
And did did Apple respond with the contents of Charlie Adelson's iCloud?
Yes, ma'am, they did.
And how does that response get provided to law enforcement?
In this case, it was provided on a USB drive, and then from there, I took that information onto my computer and started examining it.
Okay, so you received the information on a USB drive, like a flash drive,
Yes, ma'am.
and then how do you go about, and you did get that drive in this case,
Yes, ma'am.
what do you do from there?
Okay. In this case, when we first got it, I pulled it into a program called FTK, Forensic Toolkit. It's a program that we use typically for computer forensics, and was able to extract or decode the information, create a report, and provide that to the investigator.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you because you went ahead of.
I'm sorry.
What you get exactly from Apple,
Right?
what does that look like? Can you open it up and read it exactly the way that it is?
I see. It's a zip file,
Okay.
and it's not typically in a readable, human readable format. You have to use a program to be able to see all of the data.
Okay. And and I'm sorry, I believe you said that the first type of program that you used to try to make it more readable was the FTK report?
Yes, ma'am.
What is it? What is that?
FTK?
The forensic toolkit.
Right. It's a software program made by Access Data. And basically, like I said, we typically use it for computer forensics, but we can also pull in other types of data, such as data from iCloud or other things as well, to decode the information so that it's easier to read for us.
And what does the forensic toolkit give you once you've ran the data originally from Apple through the toolkit?
Right. I created a report that contained the data that it decoded.
Did you perform any other types of extraction or devices or any other programs that you ran this information from Apple through to make it more readable,
Yes, ma'am.
digestible? What was
Yes,
that?
ma'am. I did. I used another program called Celebrite, Physical Analyzer. It's a software made by the company Celebrite. I pulled the contents of the zip file into Celebrite. It decoded the data. And Celebrite's typically used for mobile forensics, so this was kind of perfect, bringing that mobile data from the iCloud into Celebrite.
And the Celebrite program, is that something that's a commonly used tool by law enforcement?
Yes, ma'am.
And you know how to use that program?
Yes, ma'am.
So you have an FTK report and then you also have a Celebrite report.
Correct.
Do either of those programs that you're running this original data from Apple through, do they change the contents in any way?
No, ma'am.
They don't add anything to it or subtract anything from the iCloud?
That's correct. It decodes what it's programmed to be able to code, whether that's contacts, call logs, text messages, pictures, videos, etc.
Do these programs in any way organize the data so that you can go to a specific category of information you might want to look at? And
Yes, ma'am, and that's the purpose of them, so that it's a lot easier for us to read. So Celebrite in specific would sort these things into the contacts, where we can pull open the tab and see just the contacts, or pull open the call logs and see just the call logs, all the way through.
I'm showing you what I've marked by identification as Exhibit 170. Do you recognize that?
I do.
And how do you recognize it?
It's a disk that I created, and it has my signature on it.
And what is contained on that particular disk?
This is the Celebrite report that I created from the Apple search warrant response for the iCloud.
Okay, and I probably should have started with that one. I'll show you next, State's Exhibit 171 for identification. Do you recognize that disk?
I do.
And what's contained on that?
This is the actual zip file that we recovered. I made a copy of it, put it on this disk, and it has my signature on it.
So that is the exact response from Apple to your search warrant for Charlie Adelson's iCloud.
Yes, ma'am.
And the 170, excuse me, Your Honor, that we just looked at, that was after it's been run through the Celebrite report.
Correct.
And finally, I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 172. Do you recognize that?
I do.
What is it?
This is the FTK report from the Apple search warrant response.
And all of these disks, you created yourself from the original evidence that you created?
That's correct.
And you initialed them all with your signature?
I did.
Now, once you've received that response for the search warrant for the contents of Charlie Adelson's iCloud, and then you use your programs and your skills to get the FTK report and the Cellbrite report to make them more readable, then what do you typically do with those CDs with that information on?
Right. Whether it's a CD, DVD, Blu-ray, whatever. I don't typically know all the details of the case. The case investigator does. So I typically give those reports to the case investigator to go through to determine what's relevant to their case.
So you don't typically review them for relevancy or evidence that you think may be of value to a particular investigation?
That's correct.
Okay, nevertheless, did I ask you to go through certain areas of Charlie Adelson's iCloud and basically look for certain text messages between Charlie Adelson and Catherine McVanois?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you in fact do that?
I did.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
I'm showing you what I've marked for identification purposes as States Exhibit 68 and 69. Do you recognize those two photographs?
I do.
And how do you recognize them?
These are pictures that were in the images. Remember how it decodes it into certain categories under images. These two pictures were in there.
I'm going to move them down to the pictures.
Sorry.
Okay, and those are accurate photographs taken directly from Charlie Adelson's iCloud?
Yes, ma'am.
They haven't been changed or altered in any way?
No, ma'am.
Right, next, I want to show you what I've marked for identification as States Exhibits 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, and 67.
Your Honor, if we could see those, there may be an objection.
What? Show them the document.
I'll show them again, yes, sir.
You would object to 61, 62.
May I present?
You may.
Okay, sorry. They're out of order. So States Exhibit 61 through 67, do you recognize those items?
Yes, ma'am.
And what do you recognize them to be?
Text messages from the iCloud search warrant response that I processed.
And are those text messages between different individuals directly from Charlie Adelson's iCloud?
Correct.
And are they accurate as far as what Apple provided in response to the search warrant?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the text message threads, are the dates and times on all of those accurate
From what I gathered from the search warrant response, yes, ma'am.
based on what they gave you?
Yes.
Based on your review of Charlie Adelson's iCloud contents, did the phone number 786-564-1312 appear in the iCloud?
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
Yes, ma'am.
And how was that phone number 786-564-1312 labeled?
How is it what?
Labeled?
Don't answer the question, please.
Labeled.
Objection.
What does that work? Maybe you should re-ask your question, Ms. Norris.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Your Honor. I'm going to go back one step. Is the phone number 786-564-1312 in Charlie Adelson's iCloud?
Yes, ma'am.
And how is that number saved as, the name associated with that
And we
phone?
know there's an objection to that I've overruled.
KD,
And how is that spelled?
KADDIE,
Do that again, I'm sorry.
KADDIE.
All right, thank you. I have no further questions.
Cross. Garcia.
Nothing from Mr. Garcia.
McManus.
Briefly, Your Honor. Investigator, good to see you again.
You too, sir.
You're gonna have to explain this to me like I'm a child. So, I've got an iPhone.
Yes, sir.
Somewhere up there is all my data. My contacts, my emails, my text messages, my multimedia messages. Those are ones with photos and videos.
They are.
My notes, my reminders, all of that stuff, right?
If those are the things that you've chosen to sync on your phone, they're not up there, they're on a network of servers somewhere.
All right.
Yes.
So it's not actually on the phone, it's somewhere, it's not actually up in a cloud. It's stored somewhere in
But
Cupertino,
it's still on your phone as well,
but it's also on the cloud, is what you're saying.
correct?
All right. So I'm able to look at all that data through my phone because there's software in the phone that will organize it.
That's correct.
There's a contacts icon, there's a text message icon, there's a call log icon. That's how I can navigate through it, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, these programs, you send a subpoena. Now, you didn't send the subpoena in this case, though, did you?
The search warrant, no, sir, I did not.
That was Investigator Sherry Bennett.
Correct,
But you get the stuff back.
correct.
You get a dongle, is that the
USB drive,
USB drive? So you get that back, and it's got all the data. The data that I get from the cloud onto my phone, you get that data for Charles Adelson.
correct. The data that was synced, yes.
But you don't have a phone to interpret it.
Correct, that's why I use my software.
That's what FTK and Celebrite does.
That's correct.
Celebrite's a little bit more advanced, though, right?
In regards to mobile forensics, yes, sir.
When you say mobile forensic, again, like I'm a child.
Understood. In regards to mobile devices such as cell phones, tablets, GPS devices, those type of things, yes.
You're able to see more information.
Yes, sir.
You're able to see deleted WhatsApp messages,
Sometimes, yes, sir, if they're decoded.
deleted text messages.
Yes, sir.
So if somebody has an iPhone and they delete a chat log, they can't see it on their phone anymore.
Correct.
But when you look into Celebrate, you can see it.
Sometimes, yes, sir.
Now, in this case, you received Charles Adelson's information,
Yes, sir.
right? And as you told Miss Norris, you took a look at it.
Correct.
And within there was, and correct me if I'm wrong, around 300,000 text, MMS, iMessage, WhatsApp messages.
I don't have the numbers in front of me. I'd have to look at a report to be sure of that, but
Do you have that report on you?
on my computer out in the hallway, I do.
Your Honor, would you allow the witness to go get his computer to refresh his recollection?
I mean, does it matter whether it's 300,000 or 200,000? I mean, do you have a ballpark figure?
There were quite a few, yes, sir. There
In
were
the
a lot,
hundreds of thousands?
Probably.
All right, fair enough. And again, that included text messages, MMS messages, iMessages, WhatsApp messages,
Yes, sir.
and it included a bunch of deleted messages.
I believe it did, yes, sir.
Now, the prosecutor asked you to look at select messages between Charles Adelson and Catherine McBanois.
Some, yes, sir.
Let's give a time frame first. This is years worth of data.
Correct.
Actually, all of his iCloud data, right?
Yes, sir.
There's no limit when you send the subpoena to Apple. They send everything since the inception of the account.
And whatever they still have, correct.
And correct me if I'm wrong, this went back to the early part of this decade.
I believe so, yes, sir.
So around 2010, 2011.
Again, I don't typically go through and do the analysis of the data. I typically let the investigator do that.
Now, I'm not going to ask you for the contents of the messages that you've just identified.
Okay.
But in all the messages that this government asked you to take a look at, and how many of them does Catherine McManus talk about being involved in a murder?
I don't, and the ones that she asked me to look at,
Yes.
none.
There's only specific conversations that she had you take a look at, right?
Correct.
Not all of the messages in between Catherine and Charles Adelson.
That's correct.
You explained to Ms. Norris how normally you would give, let's back up to the explaining to me like I'm a child again. You run your program, you do a Celebrate report.
Yes, sir.
Then you're able to save that onto a CD.
Or DVD or Blu-ray, depending on how big it is. Yes, sir.
Now, whoever has that CD, they can put it in a laptop, and then they can navigate the data just like I would navigate on my cell phone.
Correct.
But it's got more advanced search functions, right?
That's correct.
You explained to Ms. Norris how you normally give that CD over to a case investigator so that they can take a look at it.
Correct.
Did you do that in this case?
I did.
Who did you give it to?
I don't know for specific, but I believe I gave it back to Investigator Bennett, but I'm not positive of that.
What about Special Agent Patrick Sanford?
I may have, I truly don't recall.
What about retired investigator Craig Isom?
Again, I don't recall who I specifically gave it to.
What other Apple iCloud data were you given in this case to evaluate?
I believe I was asked to look at Ms. McBano's as well.
Catherine Magbanwa.
I believe so, yes, sir.
Same thing, years worth of data.
Yes, sir.
Thousands, hundreds of thousands of messages.
A lot of data, yes, sir.
And again, this isn't just text messages, this is call logs, calendar events, contacts,
Yes, sir.
reminders, internet searches.
Correct.
Basically anything you do on your cell phone through Apple is going to show up
If it's synced, yes, sir.
in response to that subpoena.
Yes, sir.
And you receive that data.
Yes, sir.
Did this state attorney's office ask you to identify any messages in her phone?
No.
So no messages or no information tying her to a murder in the year's worth of data off of her cell phone.
Again, I didn't go through it.
Hearsay and that's evidence.
If I could respond.
Well, it's outside the scope of direct examination. Also, move on.
That's all, Your
I
Honor.
sustain the objection. I sustain the objection.
That's all, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Redirect.
Investigator Dilmore, were there many investigators at the Tallahassee Police Department and the FBI working on this case?
Yes, ma'am.
And did y'all spread the tasks amongst different individuals on different roles you would take on in this homicide
Yes, ma'am.
investigation? Okay. All right, thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you.
You can step down. We need to keep him further.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you want him retained?
Yes, sir.
All right. You remain under the rule of sequestration. Investigator, can he go about his business?
Yes,
You
sir.
aren't safe. Okay. Did you have another brief witness?
Yes, sir. The state calls, yes, thank you. State calls Investigator Marcia Rodriguez.
Okay. You place the clerk and be sworn, please.
You swear or swear testimony about giving the truth, full truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can you please introduce yourself to the jurors?
Hi, my name is Marcia Rodriguez.
And can you spell that for us?
Sure, it's MARCIARODRIGU,
Where are you employed?
at the Tallahassee Police Department.
Do you work in a certain department or division?
I'm attached to our Special Investigations Unit as a digital forensic investigator,
And how long have you been with TPD?
over 25 years.
And what do you do in the digital forensics section?
So when an investigator or an officer has some sort of electronic device or storage media that they think may contain some sort of evidence, they bring it to me and I evaluate it to see if there's anything of value on it.
How many, and when you say electronic devices that you're analyzing for any
Put
evidence
that
of
microphone back in front of you, would you please, Ms. Norris?
Yes, sir. When you say you're examining items of evidence to see if there's anything you want to pull off of them, like a cell phone, could that be any electronic device, a cell phone, a tablet, a laptop?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And approximately how many electronic devices have you extracted information off of?
I've worked on over 1,000 phones.
Okay. And do you use different kind of programs to extract that data?
Yes, ma'am.
What types of programs do you use?
The primary program that we use is Celebrite. We use a couple other ones, but that is our primary tool.
And you trained on how to use that tool?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you perform a digital extraction or a Cellbrite on a phone belonging to Wendy Adelson?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you recall what type of phone that was?
It was an iPhone 4. Apple.
An Apple iPhone 4?
Yes, ma'am.
When you perform a Cellbrite extraction on a phone, does it change any of the contents inside of the phone itself?
No, ma'am, it does not.
Okay. Why would you do a Cellbrite extraction rather than just looking through the phone?
So one of the things that we do is we make sure that we don't alter the device that we get. We try and keep in the state that it's originally found in. And so if we manipulate and kind of flip through pictures and text messages, stuff like that, we may change something. Also, one of the things that we use a forensic tool for is so that we may, if something's been deleted, if there's a hidden file that the user can't see or they've hidden from view, we may not see it. So we use these tools, and sometimes the tools are able to gather that information for us.
When you do the extraction using Cellbrite, does it basically spit out like a PDF report that you can then flip through and look at to see what was contained in the phone?
We use the software that you use to do the processing analysis of the raw data that comes from the phone. It gives the opportunity to create a report. Yes, ma'am.
A Cellbrite report.
A Cellbrite extraction report. Yes, ma'am.
And that extraction report categorizes different things. For example, puts all the call logs in one section, all of the text messages in one section, and so forth.
Yes, ma'am. It categorizes it.
Okay. And you can also pull out the contact list. Like if I have phone numbers saved in my phone, like my husband or my mother, it would show up the contact name and then the phone number associated with that contact.
Yes, ma'am. How is it entered in the phone? Yes, ma'am.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You bet.
I'm showing you what I've previously shown defense counsel and marked for identification as States Exhibit 126. Do you recognize what that item is?
Yes, ma'am. This is the disk that I placed, the report that I created, the Cellbrite report for Ms. Adelson's phone.
And that is an accurate Cellbrite report directly from Wendy Adelson's iPhone?
Yes, ma'am.
You didn't make any changes to it?
No, ma'am.
And do you recognize that disk because you initialed it underneath the pretty label that we put on top?
Yes, ma'am.
There at this time, I'd offer States Exhibit 126.
Is there objection?
Yes, Your Honor, sidebar.
Okay. Shaking papers and microphone. Trying not to. She's listening to me and I'm rattling papers on the microphone. All right, so anyway, sorry. So I've admitted, I believe the correct numbers are 70, 71, 72, and 74 over objection. Do I have the numbers correct, Ms. Norris?
Yes, sir, 70, 71, 72, and 74.
Okay, probably need to get the witness to identify those items.
May I approach again?
You may.
I'm going to show you first States Exhibit 70, and what is contained in this particular exhibit.
It looks like two different contacts from the report that I created.
So these are from the Cellbrite extraction of Wendy Adelson's phone. These are her contacts, who she has listed and phone numbers stored in her phone.
These were the contacts, yes, that were sampling of the contacts that were in the phone.
And contacts for whom, if you could just...
Looks like Charlie and Dad's cell. and this appears to be another contact extraction for mom's cell.
And do each of those three contacts, mom's cell, dad's cell, and Charlie, have photographs that are associated with the contact name and phone number?
Yes, ma'am, they do.
Next, I want to ask you about State's Exhibit 71. Does this exhibit contain a phone number of interest in this investigation?
It appears to be a page from the contacts. I don't know specifically.
Does it contain a contact name and phone number associated with that name for a jitters?
Yes, ma'am, it does.
In State's Exhibit 72, what is contained in that?
This is part of the report that I created. It's the beginning of the call logs section of the report.
And do those contain the call logs from Wendy Abelson's phone on or about July 18, 2014, and previous and prior to that?
Yes, ma'am, it does.
But that's not every call log ever from her phone, just a sample?
Yes, ma'am, just a sample.
And then finally, in State's Exhibit 74, what's contained in that document?
This is also a part of the report that I created. It's showing a sampling of the voicemails that was taken from the phone.
And again, are the dates on that approximately July 16, 2014 to July 18, 2014?
Yes, ma'am.
And in any of these exhibits, has anything been deleted or removed or
No, ma'am.
taken away? I'm not sure if I asked you this yet, but when you do the extraction, the cell right extraction report, does it tell you the phone number for the phone you're extracting data from?
This report did. The extraction listed the phone number for the phone that I extracted, this Apple iPhone, as 954-803-0079.
All right, thank you, Investigator Rodriguez. I don't have any more questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Cross, Garcia.
Yes, Judge. Good afternoon, investigator. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm well, thank you.
One of the points that you were discussing during your discussions with the government was that you were concerned when you transfer the data that you don't want to manipulate any of the photos or any of the data, correct?
That's correct.
And that's because the original photographs or videos, you don't want them to be manipulated or altered, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
McManus.
No cross here.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right, any juror have a question of this witness? All right, you may sit down. Do we need to keep her further?
No, Judge, not for Mr. Garcia.
Not for Ms. Magbanua, Your Honor.
I would like to keep her under subpoena, but she
Okay.
can go about her business.
You remain under the rule of sequestration, investigator.
Yes, sir.
All right, it'd be a good time to break. Just with y'all in mind. Captain?
Judge, may we approach?
I think we have a brief witness that's be here momentarily. If you want to stand up for just a minute, I misunderstood. I thought they had said that we had run out of witnesses. We'll have just one brief witness before we break. All right, everybody be seated, please. Let's come back to order. It's my understanding that the state wishes to recall Mr. Brown.
Yes, sir.
All right, you remain under oath, Mr. Brown. Have a seat. Slide up the microphone, please, sir.
Mr. Brown, I'm holding in my hand a thumb drive, which I'm gonna figure out how to mark as State's Exhibit 173. Have you had an opportunity to review the contents of this thumb drive?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you do that since you previously testified just an hour or so ago?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and does this thumb drive fairly and accurately capture the original footage from the bus, the two buses that are in question during the times we talked about in this case?
Yes, ma'am, it does.
All right, so the footage on here isn't in smaller clips, it's the whole thing, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and it doesn't have the circles around it?
No, ma'am.
All right. Judge, at this time, I'd ask to introduce State's Exhibit 173.
You may.
Good afternoon again, sir. So this apparatus, how do you know that this is the original?
I watched as they downloaded it.
I'm sorry?
I watched as they put it on there.
Okay. You watched as they, and when you say they, you mean the government, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you watched as they downloaded what?
The clips of the buses.
Okay, and was that from the original information that you gave them, or was this from their computer?
That was from their computer.
Okay, so the question I'm asking you is, when they came and they originally subpoenaed and got your disk, correct?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Okay, so let me ask it this way. When the government sent you a subpoena for this data, did you provide it on a CD?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you see that CD upstairs?
No, sir.
Okay. Would I be correct in saying that the government had an icon on a computer which they downloaded to this zip drive and they told you that this was the original, correct?
Yes.
But
I viewed it.
I'm sorry?
I viewed it.
Okay. But are you certain that this is the same footage that you provided them in 2014?
Yes, sir.
I'm satisfied, Judge.
McBadam,
No, nothing, Your Honor. Thank you.
any redirect?
No, sir.
All right, 173, is there objection to 173?
No, Judge.
State's Exhibit 173 will be admitted. All right, you can step down. We excuse Mr. Brown now.
We may, yes,
All right.
thank you.
Anybody need him?
Again.
No, Your Honor.
All right, you're excused, Mr. Brown. All right, we good stopping point?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. We've got a little more work to do, but probably be a good place for us to stop with y'all. Don't listen to any media accounts. Don't read the newspaper. Don't talk to anybody about the case. Just leave your notes where they are. Be back at 8:45 in the morning so we can give you a chance to get in the door, and then we can start promptly at 9 o'clock. If you're a person that's time challenged, shoot to be a little bit earlier than that, all right? So, you know, if you are or you're not, some people just have a problem with time. We'll see y'all in the morning. Have a good evening. Where's Ms. Keffelman? Let's come back to order.
I think she walked outside the building a bit.
Tell her we need her in.
Yes, sir.
All right, everybody be seated. Good. So we have two situations where a Richardson hearing has been requested. One as to Mr. Yao's modified opinion. My intention is we'll let you depose, I don't remember, was it investigator, sergeant, whatever, Mr. Yao. Depose him now. Veronica will make herself available to take the deposition. We'll have a Richardson hearing in the morning at 8:30. The other was a Richardson request as to video number 125. Is there still a request now that we've put the original in evidence?
Your Honor, if I'm not mistaken, that was my request for a Richardson hearing. I do believe that it was an honest mistake by the government. In amended discovery, where I I think that that's our belief right now. In amended discovery, there was something labeled as enhanced video. Now, what we received was the original, and then I saw this enhanced one, and I could see that the white in the passenger was brighter. I have no doubt that before tomorrow morning, they're gonna get that to me, so that we can review it, so there won't be any issue. So if Your Honor wants to table the Richardson hearing until that time, or if Your Honor wants me to.
But if I understand right, and that's why I asked Investigator Dietz to stay, just maybe my understanding is wrong, but the way I understand it is he's saying he made no changes to the substance of the photos. He's highlighted, he's taken out some portions. And he paused some portions that could be seen, but the substance of the photos are unchanged. But now both videos are in evidence, is my understanding. So if you want overnight to look and see whether there's any, whether that's suspect or not, we'll take that up at 8:30 then on that issue. Is that the request?
Would the court entrust me with the evidence for the night? Or if the state can get me, that was a big request, I'll pull that back. If the state could instead get us copies of the enhanced ones, that should clear it up.
Do you have a copy of what you put in evidence, Ms. Kaplan?
No, sir, I've just received word that I need to give that to Mr. Newland to copy, so I'll make that arrangement before the clerk recesses for the evening.
So I don't know, I'll release that exhibit, that's 125, I believe, to the state. They'll burn a copy for both defense attorneys and give those to you for review tonight. Okay?
Okay,
Agreeable.
thank you, Your Honor.
You can do that, Ms. Kappelman.
Yes, Your Honor.
But we also need to, if Mr. Sanganet wants to depose Mr. Yao, he needs to do that now too. So,
Mr. Yao is available, and we've already made arrangements for a court reporter who's waiting on us. So.
okay, so Veronica graciously agreed to do it if need be, but you've arranged somebody else.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Anything else before we break for the evening?
Nothing from the state.
Judge, I'm gonna put the court on notice. I'm gonna have to research an issue that I may be making a motion in the morning.
Let's do it when you're ready.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
I can deal with enough without hypothetical issues. Okay.
The only final thing with us, Your Honor, we've already deposed Sean Yao. I have what I believe to be along the lines of what he's going to talk about. I don't believe that his testimony is going to apply to Ms. Magbanua, so myself and the Ms. Kawasas are not going to be taking part in the deposition.
That's up to you.
Thank you.
Didn't mean to suggest you had to. Okay. Anything else? All right, 8:30, folks. We'll take up those two issues.
Good night.
Thank you for